Okay, so I thought I'd give a little update as to where I am with the creation of the small resin sculpture. This is part 2 of the series from the little maquette that I made in Chavant NSP clay. And since last time I've successfully, almost successfully, cast it. But not 100%. So I'm in the process of actually doing, I've created a second sculpture, which I prefer. I'm going to show you everything in a minute, almost everything. And I've learnt a lot in the way. Now, this is a silicone mould that I produced. So the actual first cast that I did was a plaster cast of the little figure you may remember from last time. And it almost worked, and the reason it didn't entirely work is that I lost, due to trapped air, the bottom side of the right lower wing. Okay, and there are a few other little issues there, very small, to do with air bubbles and so on. A little bit of reading online, I've managed to sort out what that is, and I've cut some channels into the mould. So just to backtrack a bit, what happened after the last video was this plaster cast was taken from the original Chavant that I sculpted. The original Chavant was put into a block not dissimilar to that. This is just a box made of styrofoam and then glued together and then sealed with some Chavant to make sure it's tight, airtight. And then it was actually suspended like that, and then the silicone was poured in and filled around the mould. Yeah, and after about 24 hours it sets and it produces that. And then, like all good mould makers, you cut with a wavy line, a sharp knife and a wavy line, very carefully in, so that you can separate the mould and take the master that is now redundant out. Et voila, that was the first little plaster cast, purely as a little studio piece to remind me what I've done and to identify problems, of which there were quite a few. I'm a rookie caster. Subsequently I tried again, same mould, but this time pouring resin in. Slightly better. It's got slate filler in, that's why the resin has got this rather nice colour there. But it hasn't been polished, so it's a bit, where it's been sanded, it is a little bit dusty and so on. It would have a nice dark, slaty, bluey green colour to it if it was a production piece, but it isn't. This is also a flawed piece with the same problem there due to the trapped air. Okay, it's a rookie mistake. It was resolved rather crudely by me adding some sprues and cutting channels for the air to actually, as you pour the resin in, the air needs somewhere to escape, especially when it's travelling into the mould and then back up through it. If there's going to be nowhere for the air to go, it's pretty obvious it's going to create a pocket. The styrofoam, it's all a bit crude, it looks a bit chunky and so on. So what's going to happen next is, for future, I'm either going to make a styrofoam box like this, and the actual sculpture that is going to make the reward is actually inside, and I'm not going to reveal that. I'm going to make it blurred until the 3 lucky people who donated to my crowdfunding campaign are actually holding the finished sculpture. I rather want it to be a surprise. I don't want them to see it online first, okay, because it differs slightly from the other. Suffice to say, what I've resolved there is, with toothpicks at strategic points, I have within this box, there are toothpicks now running from strategic points that will provide the channels for the air to go into the thing and then escape. So I know that I've got a fully poured mould. Professional mould makers will degas, they'll use vacuum chambers, etc. I'm not there yet. I probably won't ever, and you can get proficient without all that equipment. One thing I've seen mould makers use, I haven't regressed to childhood, although it's tempting in this corona time, is Leggo. And because that's reusable and you can make yourself quite a nice little casting chamber that's reusable, and silicone luckily doesn't stick to these sort of surfaces, and cleanup is a lot better, and you don't get the scrappy sort of thing that's going on there. Okay, so next step is to pour the silicone, so let's do that. Okay, so to make the silicone rubber you need two parts. Taranti, the supplier I mentioned last time, provide a kit, 1 litre of mould rubber and the catalyst. Et voila, you mix the 50 grams of catalyst with the silicone rubber, give it a good stir, making sure not to put too many bubbles in there, and then pour. So that's what I'm going to do. But since I need to concentrate, etc., and not talk to you, I'm going to turn the camera off just while I do that. Okay. 1 tin silicone mould rubber plus catalyst, gently stirred, ready to pour. Fingers crossed, eh? Okay. Bye bye, little fella. Now as I pour, I'm not going fast, I'm watching that it's levelling out all around. I haven't got any major leaks, that's good. And I'm making sure that the silicone is going in around the sculpture rather than over it, so it creeps up as the level creeps up, and it wraps around quite nicely. So here is the silicone mould now, it's complete, and I need to trim off the flashing, the little bits of silicone that seep out through the seams there. Just tidies it up a bit. Now a skilled block mould maker will probably optimise the amount of silicone they use, but if you overdo it in the initial stages as a mould maker and try and scrimp on this silicone, you sometimes lose stability, rigidity, so I've been quite generous there in the block. What you can see I'm doing here now is trimming and opening the mould with a series of wavy lines that will ensure that when the mould closes up again you get good registration, you don't get slippage. It's quite a long process to do this. I'm learning as I go, but the most important rule here is not to rush, because obviously you don't want to damage the actual interior of the mould. Anyway, you can see there, I'm just cleaning out some of the gunk that gets in there. And you can see some of the channels that I've put in and some of the detail there around the base. So this is really very near to getting ready to cast now.